So let's get stuck in very quickly. OmniCYber Security, so that's us. We are an IASME accredited certifying body for Cyber Essentials. That means we can issue Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus certificates on behalf of the government for the scheme. We offer offensive and defensive security services as well as compliance. Offensive security being penetration testing, security testing of applications. Defensive security will be internal checks, configurations, hardware, infrastructure, that kind of thing. Compliance, we offer the IASME standard itself, Cyber Essentials, which is why we're here, and we are also a PCI qualified security assessor. Very quickly about myself, so my name is Phil Ridley. I'm the technical director here at Omni, and I help to run all the security functions that we have within the business. So let's get stuck in. Why we're here. Cyber Essentials it's a government scheme for testing threats from the internet, basically. It's a light touch scheme that the government devised about 2 years ago, and it had input from industry and CESG themselves. The government realised that UK PLC needed some help in making itself secure. One of the ways that they decided to do this was by implementing the Cyber Essentials programme, and there's been a lot of take-up throughout industry. It now forms part of the UK's cybersecurity programme and cybersecurity strategy. And it's been quite successful in a lot of parts of the UK, and a lot of industries have seen it be very, very useful for them. The framework itself comes in two flavours. There's Cyber Essentials Basic, which is a self-assessment. So the question set is freely available on the internet. You can go through, look at the requirements for Cyber Essentials. You can complete a questionnaire. We, as an organisation, offer the questionnaire in an online format. So you would simply log into a secure portal, fill in your answers, and we would verify those answers as being compliant with the standard. And then, if we're satisfied, then you get a Cyber Essentials certificate. The responses are reviewed. So as I say, we look at the answers. We make sure they're okay. Cyber Essentials, it's not a hard pass or fail standard. There is leeway within it for adapting to the way that businesses work. Some things are expected of the standard, but if there are legitimate business reasons why it can't be that way, then we will obviously bear that in mind. What we do recommend is if you do have any questions or queries, if you read through the question set and you think, well, I'm not sure about this, then just let us know. Give us a call, drop us an email, and we'll let you know whether it will be considered compliant or not. So the second level of Cyber Essentials is what's known as Cyber Essentials Plus. So the main difference here is that it's independently tested, so it's an audited version of the standard. We actually look at the controls that you say you're doing and test them to make sure that they are doing what they say they're doing. As an example, Cyber Essentials says you should have a firewall. So that's quite an easy check to conduct. You know, we visit a site and say, yes, you've got a firewall. One of the requirements for that firewall would be to change the default username and password on it. And again, that's relatively easy for us to check. So none of these checks are supposed to be in-depth and heavy. It's just to make sure that the basics are in place. An external assessor will come in and audit the actual requirements that are there. We'll go through a little bit more later on in detail about some of those requirements anyway. So why would you go for a Cyber Essentials Plus rather than a basic Cyber Essentials? Really depends on your business goals. Some businesses like the fact that you have the audit and it's an independent check. Some tenders will request that you have Cyber Essentials Plus rather than Cyber Essentials Basic. Depending on which industry vertical you're working in, it may be mandated on you. For example, if you're a Ministry of Defence contractor, you may have to do Cyber Essentials Plus. Cyber Essentials Basic is a good starting point. Cyber Essentials Plus gives that extra assurance across the 5 domains of the standard itself. Okay. So reassurance for stakeholders and customers that the controls are in place and effective. So the actual requirements of the Cyber Essentials standard are fairly standard, I would say, within the security industry. There's nothing in there no curveballs, nothing in there that should be difficult for an organization to achieve. Really, that was the whole purpose of the standard, was to make it straightforward and easy for companies to implement. 5 domains, so the first of which is protection from the internet. This is where most of Cyber Essentials is concerned with protecting you from outside threats coming into your environment. At a high level, Cyber Essentials requires that you have a firewall, which if you don't have a firewall these days, I think you've got bigger problems. You must know what rules are enabled on your firewall, so you must understand as an organization what traffic is allowed in and what traffic is allowed out. And your firewall must also be configured with a non-default password, so you can't just pull it out of the box, plug it in, and have it on your network. Second domain is what we call secure configuration. So this is looking at how your environment internally is working. So disabling default user accounts, not using default passwords on PCs or other pieces of equipment. The auto run feature that Windows operating systems has, so switching that off, it's a very common method for viruses and malware to propagate themselves by. Unneeded software, so when you buy computers nowadays, they come with a lot of extra software that's not necessarily needed for core business functions. So disabling and removing that is one of the key requirements. Sorry, Tristan, are you asking a question? If you want to use the chat function. Okay, maybe not. Okay, sorry, Tristan. I saw your microphone icon flashing away. So, anyway, to carry on, user access control. So this is looking at how you provision user accounts, administration privileges, things like that. So a process is needed for how you assign access to users, a formal sign-off process. Who gets admin rights? Do you know who has admin rights within the environment? Keeping a list of the users that do. Strong passwords is a kind of fundamental requirement as well. So 8 characters, uppercase, lowercase, etc., pretty much a standard across the across IT generally nowadays. Also, password expiration. So Cyber Essentials would expect that your passwords would expire at least after 60 days. So that's getting your users to change those every couple of months. Next on the list is protection from malware. So again, this is a very big piece. You must have an anti-malware, antivirus solution installed and configured across the systems that are in scope for the certification. It needs to be configured to run daily updates, daily scans, and should be capable of scanning files and also web links. So this is one that sometimes people get caught out on. So ideally, your antivirus solution should notify users of any malicious websites that they may be visiting. And this is one of the things that we would check as part of a Cyber Essentials Plus assessment, would be making sure that your antivirus is in, on, and working. We have some test viruses that look and behave like viruses, but obviously don't do anything malicious, but they would be used to trigger malware protection to make sure it's all in place and all working. And finally, this is quite a big area that a lot of audits tend to fall short on is patch management. So patching for your software, patching for your operating systems. Patches are expected to be applied within 14 days. So any patch that's issued for security purposes, we would expect that to be updated within 14 days of issue. General software updates every 30 days, so the actual applications and things that you're using, or non-critical patches. Unsupported software, so out-of-date software, unlicensed software, anything like that is not allowed as part of the Cyber Essentials standard. So this is one of the harder points, how shall I say that, within the standard itself. If you're using something that's not supported or it's out of date, then it's a big no-no. We tend to use what's called a CVSS score, so that's a risk-based scoring. So when we look at things like security and patch management, we use CVSS to determine risk. Cyber Essentials Plus has one additional requirement over and above these core requirements, and that's an external vulnerability scan. So we would look at your external facing infrastructure from the internet and see if there are any patches missing, any insecure services running. Again, coming back to that CVSS score, anything on there that's marked as a high risk or a critical risk, you would be expected to remediate that before a Cyber Essentials certificate, Cyber Essentials Plus certificate could be awarded. So those are the core requirements. Again, these are all available in more detail. We'll send some links over later on so you can see these for yourself. Why do organizations get Cyber Essentials? Well, one of the key drivers is supply chain. So Cyber Essentials is mandatory for central government contracts. Depending on what information you'll be handling and certain products and services, you would be expected to have a Cyber Essentials certificate in place before you'd be able to bid for one of these contracts. That's not to say that's the exclusive reason why. Cyber Essentials has been designed to be affordable for small and medium enterprises. It's not limited to SMEs, but that's the target market for it. It's very affordable. The self-assessment is £300 for a self-assessment certificate. Cyber Essentials Plus tends to be priced on scope, so if it's a big organisation, small organisation. It's a great stake in the ground from an assurance perspective. So you can communicate to your customers. There's a badge that comes with it. You can put it on your website. You can communicate to board members, management teams. It's a really good starting point for a cybersecurity program, a more effective strategy going forward. It assures various stakeholders that your business is taking the steps to handle data and systems in a secure fashion. And again, tender applications, even if it's not specifically required for tender applications, we have seen it be a kind of a value add, if that makes sense, for a business differentiator between you and your competitors. And as we mentioned earlier on, if you're part of the MOD supply chain, again, it will be a requirement for you to have Cyber Essentials. It's all shapes and sizes. Different size companies could benefit from doing Cyber Essentials. A lot of the breaches that have been in the press have been weaknesses in some of the control areas that we talked about previously. So software patching is huge. A lot of the breaches that occurred last year, about 80% of those were down to insufficient software patching. It's a simple requirement. It's straightforward. If you're doing it, you've instantly covered yourself from 80% of the internet-born sort of common script kiddie, if you like, hacks that are out there. So it's a really, really good system that can be very beneficial. So how do you go about actually getting Cyber Essentials for your organisation? How do you implement it? Well, really, the first thing that you need to discuss is planning and preparation. Where do we start? Do we need to do self-assessment? Would we rather go through an audit process? What are the business drivers for getting this? Even though it's light touch, again, it's not expensive, it's still going to require some commitment from one or more people within your organization. So it's something to think about. What are the business drivers for this? Why do we need it? Why do we want to get it? Once you know that you want to have it, have a look at the requirements. Obviously, it's a good place to start, but you'll be surprised about how many people don't even bother to check it. Assess them and have a gap analysis. You can do this internally. You can get someone to help you to do this. See where you are at the moment. See where you need to be to meet the requirements. Think about scope. Do I want to cover my whole organization? Does it just need to be one branch, one part of my company? Have a look and see, what you feel comfortable with doing. So execution and implementation, out of the back of your gap analysis, you will know where the gaps are, if there are any. You'll know what the areas to be remediated are. Go away and make sure those happen. Again, there may be business reasons why you can't do certain things a particular way. Everyone has particular ways of working. That's fine. As assessors, we absolutely understand and appreciate that. So we're not going to hammer people because of the way they work. There's always reasons why. Key thing is, as long as the business knows that, as long as they're documented, you accept the risk, then that's absolutely fine. There's, generally speaking, very few reasons why you would fail a Cyber Essentials audit. Once you're happy that you're in a place that you can go, you can submit for certification. So again, depending on which way you're going, you can either self-assess or book an audit. Depends, what the business wants to achieve. For a copy of the requirements, let us know. We're quite happy to send you one. They are available at the general level. They are available from the government's Cyber Streetwise website. But what we can actually supply you with is a copy of the questions that will be asked on the self-assessment. So a much more detailed set of requirements that we'll be able to supply you with. So if you want those, just let us know. And we're always happy to offer advice and guidance. We don't have to, sign contracts and start charging people for money. Cyber Essentials need to be achievable for businesses. So we're always happy to tell people, what we think, give you advice and input. So if you need any help, let us know. Again, Cyber Streetwise is a great place to start for the Cyber Essentials requirements. But if you need more detail, you know where we are. That's it from us in a nutshell. Anyone got any questions, anything else they'd like to know? If there's nothing at the moment, that's my email address, that's our phone number, that's our address. So please take the opportunity to reach out to us. I would thoroughly recommend going away and having a look at the requirements. I will just post those in the chat box. But I'll leave the WebEx open for a few minutes, so if there are any questions, please do just let me know.